It happened in late October, about 2 years ago, during a drive I should have never made alone. My name is Ryan, and at the time I was living in Amarillo, Texas. My older brother had moved to Colorado Springs, and after he kept asking me to visit, I finally took a few days off work and decided to drive up there myself. I had always liked long drives. There was something peaceful about being alone on the road at night, with music playing low and nothing ahead of you except open highway. That's what I thought this trip would be. Just a quiet overnight drive. I left Amarillo a little after 8:30 p.m. in my old dark blue Chevy Malibu. The car wasn't anything special, but it was reliable. I had topped off the tank, grabbed coffee, packed a few snacks, and queued up enough podcasts to keep me awake for hours. For the first part of the trip, everything felt normal. Traffic was light, the weather was cold but clear, and the road was easy. Around midnight, the highway started getting emptier. I mean, really empty. There were long stretches where I wouldn't see another car for several minutes at a time. Just darkness on both sides of the road, the glow of my headlights, and those occasional reflective road signs appearing out of nowhere and vanishing just as fast. I still wasn't worried. I had driven alone plenty of times before. Then my gas light came on. I looked down at the dashboard and quietly cursed. I had planned to stop earlier, but I kept pushing it because I thought the next gas station would be better lit, or cheaper, or closer. That was stupid. I checked the GPS on my phone. Signal was weak, but it still loaded a route to a gas station about 15 minutes off the highway in a place I'd never heard of. There weren't many other options nearby, and I didn't want to gamble on driving farther with the fuel dropping lower and lower. So I took the exit. The moment I got off the main highway, the whole drive changed. The road narrowed into a cracked two-lane stretch with no streetlights. Dry fields spread out on both sides, broken by fences and dead brush. It looked like the kind of place people drove through in daylight and forgot immediately. At night, though, it felt different. It felt abandoned. I kept following the GPS until I saw a small glowing sign in the distance. The gas station looked like it had been forgotten sometime in the early 90s and never updated since. It had two old pumps under a flickering canopy, a squat little convenience store, and one buzzing neon sign in the window that only lit up half the word, "Open." There were no other customers. No cars at the pumps. Just an old pickup truck parked near the side of the building, and even that looked like it had been sitting there for a while. I pulled up to the nearest pump, killed the engine, and sat there for a second, staring at the place. It was too quiet. No distant traffic, no voices, no wind, nothing. I got out, swiped my card at the pump, and the screen flashed an error message. I tried again. Same thing. At that point, I was annoyed more than anything else. I locked the car and walked into the store. Inside, the place smelled like stale coffee, dust, and old floor cleaner. Half the shelves were empty. A cooler along the back wall hummed loudly, and a tiny TV was mounted in one corner, playing some local news station with the volume almost all the way down. Behind the counter sat an old man in a faded brown jacket. He looked like he was in his late 60s, maybe early 70s. Thin face, gray mustache, tired eyes. He barely looked up when I walked in. "Pump won't take my card," I said. He nodded once. "Prepay only after 11. His voice was flat, almost like he was distracted. I handed him some cash and asked for $30 on pump 2. As he rang it up, I noticed something strange. He kept glancing not at me, but past me, toward the front windows. I turned slightly, looking outside. At first, I didn't notice anything. Then I saw headlights. A dark SUV had just rolled into the lot and stopped near the edge of the property, up far enough from the pumps that it sat mostly in shadow. Its headlights shut off a second later. I frowned. I hadn't seen it pull in. The old man handed me my receipt, but he didn't let go right away. "You heading north?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Colorado." He gave a slow nod, then finally released the receipt. "You should fill up and get back on the highway quick." Something about the way he said it made me pause. Not dramatic, not panicked, just serious. I gave a small half laugh. "That town advice?" He didn't smile.
Open the window. Now.
"Just advice."
No. Go away.
I turned back
need to
toward
talk
the
to you.
window. The SUV was still there.
Leave.
Driver's side door opened.
Hey,
A man
open
stepped
up.
out.
Who are you?
Even from that distance,
I
there
need
was
help.
something
Open
off
the
about
door.
him. He didn't head for the store right away. He just stood there beside the SUV, looking in the direction of my car like he was checking whether I was alone. I looked back at the cashier. "Do you know him?" The old man didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "No." That one word hit harder than it should have. I looked back outside. The man shut the SUV door and started walking slowly toward the store entrance. Not in a hurry, just steady, deliberate. My stomach tightened. The old man leaned forward slightly and lowered his voice. "When you walk out," he said, "don't stand by your car." I stared at him. "What?" His eyes moved briefly toward the front door, then back to me. "Get in and leave. Don't look at them. Don't wait. Don't answer if they talk to you." The way he said them instead of him made my mouth go dry. I glanced back toward the lot. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There was someone else still sitting in the passenger seat of the SUV. Just a dark shape. Watching. The front door opened. A cold gust of air slipped into the store, and the man from the SUV walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black jacket and a faded baseball cap. He didn't look at the shelves, didn't look at the drinks, didn't look around like a customer. He looked directly at me. Then he smiled. It wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile that made you feel like he already knew something you didn't. He stepped farther inside, and in a calm voice he said, "Road's pretty empty tonight, isn't it?" The man kept staring at me through the window of the store. There was something about the way he looked at me that made my stomach tighten. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't friendliness. It felt like he was studying me. I didn't say anything. I just turned around and walked toward the door like I was in a hurry to leave. Outside, the night air felt colder than before. I walked straight to my car and unlocked it quickly. As I opened the door, I glanced toward the dark SUV parked at the edge of the lot. Someone was still sitting inside. I couldn't see their face clearly, but I could tell they were watching me. That alone made my heart start pounding. I got into my car and started the engine. Right then, the door of the gas station opened behind me. I looked in the mirror. The same man had stepped outside, or instead of walking to the pumps, he walked straight toward my car, slowly, calmly. He stopped beside my window and knocked twice on the glass. I didn't
Here's
roll
the
it down.
cash. Thank
He
you.
leaned
Out
closer
of
and
20?
said something through
Yes,
the window,
please.
but I couldn't hear it with the engine running. I shook
Here's
my
your
head
change.
and pretended I didn't understand. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then the smile on his face slowly disappeared. Without saying anything else, he stepped back and walked toward the SUV. That's when I realized something that made my chest tighten. There were two people inside that vehicle. The man got into the passenger seat. The driver immediately started the engine. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I pressed the gas and drove out of the station as fast as I could. For about 30 seconds, I thought I was in the clear. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. Two headlights turned onto the road behind me. The SUV was following. The moment I saw the SUV behind me, my heart started racing. At first, I tried to stay calm. Maybe they were just heading the same direction. Maybe I was overthinking everything that had just happened at the gas station. But then the SUV started getting closer. And closer. Within a minute, it was only a few car lengths behind me. The road back to the highway felt much longer than before. There were no houses, no lights, and still no phone signal. Just darkness on both sides of the road. I pressed harder on the gas pedal. My car sped up. The SUV sped up too. That's when I realized it wasn't a coincidence. They were definitely following me. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as I kept driving. I kept checking the mirror every few seconds. The headlights behind me stayed locked onto my car like they didn't plan on letting me go. Then suddenly the SUV moved into the opposite lane. It started pulling up beside me. My stomach dropped. For a second, the two vehicles were driving side by side on the empty road. I glanced over. The same man who had knocked on my window was sitting in the passenger seat. He was staring directly at me, and he was smiling again. Not a normal smile. The kind of smile that made it feel like he already knew I was scared. Then the SUV suddenly swerved slightly toward my car. I jerked the wheel and nearly drove off the road. That's when the highway entrance appeared ahead in the distance. I pressed the gas as hard as I could. My engine roared as the car sped toward the ramp. I didn't slow down when I reached it. I just flew onto the highway and merged into the first lane. Luckily, there were finally other vehicles around. 2 semi-trucks, a couple of late-night drivers. Real traffic. The SUV came up the ramp behind me but slowed down once we reached the highway. For a moment, it stayed a few cars back. Then, without warning, it changed lanes and took the next exit. Within seconds, its headlights disappeared into the darkness. Just like that. I never saw that SUV again. But the thing that still sticks with me isn't the chase. It's what the old man at the gas station said before I left. When I was walking out the door, he quietly told me, "Those guys come through here sometimes, waiting for someone driving alone." Since that night, I've never stopped at a gas station in the middle of nowhere again. And if I ever see a dark SUV parked far away from the pumps, I just keep driving.